Hello everyone and welcome back to my Metal Gear Solid Integral Alternate Round Walkthrough Part 2. It is quite the mouthful just saying the title of this walkthrough, and just to be clear, it is a walkthrough, this is all post-commentary, and I'll be teaching you how to get through the game, collecting as many items as possible to make it the most easiest journey through. So we've got quite a bit of ground to cover in Part 2. We've got 3 boss fights, Ocelot, the tank, and Psycho Mantis. So it's going to be quite a fun one. And there's not too much I have to walk you through in terms of guard routines to begin with. From what I can tell, boss fights are pretty much unchanged, although I did notice some changes with the tank that I'll mention when we get there, but that can simply be down to manoeuvring the tank with Vulcan Raven. Can kind of go all over the place, so I'm not going to put that down to the difficulty as such. I think that is more just my positioning in the fight. But there's nothing to note of here in this part. To unlock this mode, you already have to beat the game once, so you'll already know what you're doing here with the C4 in terms of what rooms to blow up and whatnot. So this will allow me a bit of time to sort of talk through some things and the channel itself. So I've recently had to stall this project slightly in terms of uploading because of the recent PlayStation Network outage. Thankfully, it only lasted, a few days? I mean, I hadn't really been on my PlayStation anyway. I'd only gone on to upload a few of these episodes, so it's not really catastrophically changed much. Of course, couldn't say the same when that outage happened back in 2011. I think I read the other day it was 23 days. I always thought it was 24 back in 2011. But in my mind, if you were to ask me, and I didn't have the date to hand or how many days it was, I'd probably tell you that it was about like 3 months. It wasn't even 1 month, because that was at a time, how old was I when that happened? I was about 13, 14. So, like, PlayStation, being online on PlayStation, playing Call of Duty, and not just that, I played a whole bunch of games, but not being able to go online was like this major life-changing incident, it felt like at the time, which is incredible, because now, as I say, PlayStation Network was down for a few days. I didn't even notice. So, there you go. But yeah, I mean, I was even playing Uncharted multiplayer. AVP 2010, I used to play that online all the time. As a friend of mine, we were talking about the recent outage. We brought that up. So yeah, kind of crazy. As I say, slight delay on the project, but not too much. One thing to note here, those who know this game really well will know that I'm not going to a certain room to the right. That's because I don't really have the key cards needed. I'm going to wait until I've got level 6 way later in the game to get everything down here. And that'll be the same when we go back into the main tank hangar and get some other stuff, which is giving me a hell of a lot of issues right now, way later on in the game. But I'll get to those when we get there. Anyway, Ocelot boss fight. Not too much to note with this. I've never been particularly good at this fight, and initially when I was thinking up of doing this walkthrough, I wasn't going to include the boss fights, but for the sake of cohesion in the walkthrough, I'm going to include them. And I think I hit Baker twice in this run, which is not something I think I've ever done before. So the trick of Ocelot is to obviously look at his bullet counter at the top there with the 6, get him when he's reloading, as I just did there. It's a case of, not getting caught in a loop where he's constantly outrunning you, but getting him in like here when he's finished reloading. Try and sneak up your different ways that you're going and try and catch him off guard as best you can. Like now, I'm going to change directions and change back again. It'll just confuse the AI, give you more chance of getting a shot off like that. Do not go too gung-ho, because you can only hit Ocelot once, at the most, or you're just going to be wasting a lot of shots. And there's 2 ammo pickups, I think there's 3 actually, but there's one near Baker on the wire, which is really difficult to get to, and you don't want to be messing with that, because you touch one of them wires, and the whole place in C4 is going to go up. So, kind of wait until you've got as little ammo as possible before picking up the easy ammo grabs, because you don't want to be put into an unwinnable situation. Now, one thing I'd not done at this point in the walkthrough, that I've decided to do later, is I'm not going to use rations, just to try and put a new charge on myself. I've used one here, and I hit Baker again. Jeez, if I'd hit Baker again, it'd have been all over. I don't think you've ever seen this boss fight where the life bars get that low. But it's a really simple boss fight. It's just there to sort of get used to combat a little bit more, because generally if you're playing this game properly and well, you're not going to be getting into too much combat. But everything all well and good there, so we move on, and now things are going to get a little bit more interesting as we're going to have some guards to sneak past, and therefore getting to showcase the alternate round. I just wanted to address a comment from part 1 that I think went along the lines of F word, you can talk. I think it was FNL, you can talk, something like that. Well, yeah, because I'm doing a walkthrough with post-commentary. If you don't want to watch it, pal, there's plenty on there out there. But I appreciate your comment, as always, and I'll take it on board by talking even more. And I've got 30 minutes to talk this time, so got even more to get in. But in all seriousness, I will sort of address that when I'm doing this walkthrough, I do have to talk a bit more snappy and a bit quicker than I normally do, because the whole purpose of this video is if somebody's struggling trying this alternate route out and they want us to find a walkthrough to get past a certain bit and they want to collect a certain item, I want to be able to detail you how to do that. Like here, this guard routine was a bit like off-putting to me, so I had to, you know, sort of had to use my wits. So what I'm going to do is I think I went to the, maybe go to the box to my right? I can't quite remember. So whilst I did actually play this and get through. But I use the thermal goggles in case you're wondering because it shows me if there's any trapdoors and I can see that there's none there, so I'm going to wait for him to just turn and walk past. I don't need to do too much here. It's going to be a little bit more tricky when I come for the sniper rifle, I think, in about an hour or so's time. That will probably test my abilities a bit more because I've got to go into the centre bit and get the sniper rifle. I haven't yet done that, so that'll be interesting when that comes up. But yeah, that room's easy enough to get through, and that'll get you through to the tank hangar. Just keep using the thermal goggles because then you won't miss any trapdoors. Now, one thing to note in the tank hangar, I'm not going to go upstairs and try and get items because in my head I was like, well, I do have the key card now, but I'd rather come back later because you're gonna come through the tank hangar a lot basically. So I ignored it for now, and I'm trying to do it later, and it's giving me a whole heap of issues. So look forward to that. That's going to be the main key of this walkthrough, trying to find out how to get into that door in particular, that door 2, because in there is the mine detector. But with the thermal goggles, you're not going to need the mine detector, so don't stress too much. Now, one thing I'm going to get is this SOCOM suppressor, because, to be honest with you, I don't know, because I kind of am aiming in this walkthrough to not kill any guards. I'm trying to show as little guard interaction as possible, just to make an extra challenge on myself. And as I say, this is something I really wish future Metal Gears had incorporated, this alternate round, because giving the guards different patterns and stuff like that is a hell of a challenge. So I've really enjoyed it so far. I'm a bit stuck at the minute trying to get that mine detector though, because the guard in question up there, I think his AI seems to always turn around as the minute you leave that door. It's almost like programmed to catch you out. But I don't believe the game would be that broken, so I'm going to have to keep pushing, you know, really making it push till it sticks, and I'm sure I can get past that guard. It's one guard, I'm sure I can finally do it. You'll know if I don't because the walkthrough will stop, or I'll have to just forget the mine detector, which I might end up doing. But this is the tricky bit of this whole room. Always get a bit sweaty when playing this bit, so the thermal goggles help massively. I can't really give you any advice on this other than just dodge the lasers. You know, just wait for them to come up, go at the right moment, don't go too much so you've got your foot on one of the lines. When I first played this as a kid, when I was about 8 years old, I hated this bit. Terrified the absolute hell out of me. And it took me like, I must have had to play the game a good 4 or 5 times to finally like get over the fear of this, because it just always had me, this bit. It used to drive me up the wall. But the last two were always quite easy because they're kind of in opposite directions. So once you go past one, you can generally slip under the other. And simple enough. One speedrun little trick there, go prone, and you can go through the door a little bit quicker. And yeah, that guy's right, I can half talk when talking about this game. But I'm going to come to another boss fight almost immediately after that one, because this game's pace is absolutely relentless. I must say, the pacing in Metal Gear Solid 1 is kind of crazy. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I think MGS3 is vastly superior to this game. And I know it might be slightly controversial because most people think 3 is better than 1. But I think for someone to say vastly is quite a strong word. But I think MGS3's pacing is just so good and it just clears this game. So there are my opinions on that one. But here we are, we have the tank boss fight. The first thing to do is throw a chaff grenade immediately. And I believe that there is a claymore. No, I'm going around the centre. So yeah, just go in the centre and forget all that business, because I did actually die on this boss fight. And as I say, I don't know if I'd committed to the ration thing at this point. Now, one thing you'll notice is I'm moving pretty quick with a grenade by double tapping R1. I feel like that helps you a little bit past the gunner on the M1, but I'm not entirely sure. The trick with this is just hold square and make sure you're in at the tank, because that'll make sure you get it in the hatch. Don't ever throw it immediately after throwing the last one like I did last time, as you just saw there, because the guard gets quite a buff with his health. If you're really good at this, 2 grenades will do the job, and you feel quite good when you do it. And I'm bringing back the good old-fashioned teabagging. But yeah, 2 grenades in the hatch, and this fight's done. It kills both gunners immediately. And so, yeah, what I was talking about earlier, when I first did this and I died, I ended up going to the door, and the tank very much hung around in the middle, going the way I came, the other hangar, which felt very odd, because I don't think I'd ever seen that before, but that might have just been the pattern I was running. But yeah, two grenades, and you can do that really easily. And we'll get into a room that's always been a challenge, because unlike what I'm doing here, where I'm not using any guns, this room forces you to not use guns, because your nanomachine bollocks aren't allowed to use weapons in this room. So you're kind of forced to stealth it anyway. And this is one of the rooms where I really appreciated this different difficulty mode, or game setting mode, whatever you want to call it, because I really had to come up with something different. Normally I go left and up the stairs, kind of feel like that's the best way to do this room, but I had to get a bit creative, and I really enjoyed it for this. Because I think initially I tried to go the left way. So we'll see how that unfolds just here. But just before I do, as I say, if you're struggling, just watch what I do. I'm not going to talk you too much through this, because I'll talk on something else just momentarily. MGS 3, as the remake, has recently just had, is it called Metal Gear Solid Delta? I think that's the official title, yeah. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. 28th of August, I believe, when I last read, this year. Which is kind of cool, because you don't tend to get many games out in August, but just summer. Summer's always quite a slow time for games, so to get something like that is going to be pretty cool. I've been umming and ahhing about this remake, because MGS 3 is my favourite game of all time. But this looks like it's going to be a pretty damn faithful remake. Now, I'm not sure how that's going to work in a modern world with better controls and everything, because a lot of Metal Gear Solid 3 is deliberately done and expertly crafted, and it fits that game, and even things like the dodgy controls work really well in that game at times. Don't get me wrong, they can be damn confusing, but once you've played that game a lot and mastered them controls, it really gives you a sense of power that standard conventional controls don't. And that might all sound a bit jarring. I think you probably have to have played the game a lot, like myself have, and there's people that have played the game a lot more than me, incredibly. There's some incredibly talented people on MGS3. But it's going to be interesting to see, because MGS3 is very deliberately designed, and it's like how we've had Resident Evil 4 is, funnily enough, my second favourite game of all time. We had the remake of that a couple of years ago now, and while I enjoyed it and thought it was a pretty steady game, I still think the original is far superior. I think the remake was pretty good, and very faithful, but because it's not the exact same game, and they changed sort of the rules of combat, because gaming has changed a lot since Resident Evil 4 original, and in some ways not for the better, but they changed a lot, and a lot of the deliberate design sort of disappeared. So I think as a result, it was just slightly worse. Little things, the rules of combat, and Resident Evil 4 original can be a bit like a dance, and I'd say Resident Evil 4 remake was a bit more of a disjointed dance, but still a very good game. And I very much worry that MGS3 is going to be potentially like that, although it's probably a little bit easier to do than Resident Evil 4. Now, I just wanted to break off very briefly. I could not for the life of me get past this guard without interacting with him, so I sort of brought my own rule and decided to knock on the truck just to get round him. Found that to be the most convincing way to get past. I mean, one of the flaws, going back to Metal Gear Solid 3 now, remake, one of the flaws with the original game for me is always too much use of menus, which funnily enough is my also flaw of Resident Evil 4, because you just spend too much time in menus, switching uniforms. It can be a bit cumbersome at times, and the menus aren't too great. They can be a bit slow and unresponsive at times. So it looks like you're going to be able to change camouflages on the fly, which is really good, but might also break some cohesion in the game, and I don't know. It'll probably work a lot better, though, so the backpack's going to be more interactive and live. I'll be fascinated to see how that impacts on the game, how much better that sort of makes it, or potentially hinders it. I'm not sure which way it'll go, but it'll be interesting to see. As I say, I've been umming and ahhing about the remake, but I'm kind of on board, so I think that I'll probably be purchasing that, and you can very much expect on this channel something with that. So I might even do a live stream, to be honest. A live stream sounds pretty good, actually. A live stream, my first playthrough, first initial thoughts. I'll have to make sure I get the audio balancing all right for that, but I'll keep cutscenes in, so it's a long-ass game, and I'll be quiet during cutscenes, believe it or not. Despite what somebody said last part, I can talk. I also can shut up, so don't worry. I can keep my mouth shut for cutscenes. I might make the odd comment if something catches my eye, but yeah, I think I'll probably do a stream, and we can probably certainly do the Virtuous mission, because even with cutscenes that won't take too long, unless they make the game super hard. I'm probably going to jack up the difficulty as well, and I'm wondering if it'd be worth my time playing a bit of Metal Gear Solid 5 before I do, because I imagine the game's going to play a lot like Metal Gear Solid 5. It's essentially going to be Metal Gear Solid 5 gameplay, but in MGS3. Oh, one thing here, do duck, because this guard looks at this window, and I can't imagine he won't see through that. So, as I say, that's the beauty of this alternate rounds. Little things like that. I don't think I've ever had to do that before, so that had me very much on edge. But I'm very much jumping between the two here, sorry. So get the Nikita launcher, that's all you need in here. Get that Nikita launcher and leave, because you're going to get so many more opportunities to come back here and go through all the doors. So don't loiter in there. Just get the Nikita launcher, leave, go back to B2. Or, if you've not already, go to B2. As we've got another boss fight coming up. So there's actually 4 boss fights in this part. Yeah, the pace of this game is incredible. I mean, MGS3's pace, as I was saying before, the tank fight is so much better. And, because I think MGS3 has a pretty similar number of boss fights. I'd have to go through that properly off the top of my head, but they're spread out a lot better. I still think MGS1 has the best collection of boss fights in terms of how good they are. MGS3 has better highs, but it does have some lows. I'm thinking mainly of the Fear isn't a particularly great fight. I don't think MGS1 has a fight anywhere near as bad as that. I think all of MGS1's boss fights are pretty solid. I'm not even sure what the weakest one would honestly be. Off the top of my head, they're all really good. So MGS1 definitely stands out. MGS3's got a few duds in there. I don't think the Pain's actually that great. He's pretty good, but he's not great. And the Shagohod fight, where you are... But it's just the Shagohod fight, isn't it? When it's just the top half and you're going around on the motorcycle. That's not great either. And I always thought that was a pretty weak moment in the game, unfortunately. It was like my least favourite part of my favourite game. And I think for Resident Evil 4 it would be the chopper sequence. So they're kind of in similar positions in both games, which is interesting. Nice bit of caveat. And the same goes for Devil May Cry 3, which is like my third favourite game. I think Mission 18... Is it Mission 18? Yeah. It's either Mission 18 or 19. I've done it. It's on this YouTube channel. I've mentioned it at the time, back in COVID. I think it's Mission... I want to say Mission 18 is you just have to do a boss rush of all the bosses you've already fought. I just hate the level. I think it's just garbage because it's just padding for all intents and purposes. It's... In all intents and purposes, it's good at showing you how far you've come as a player, mind you. That is one thing I'll give it. It looks pretty good that can now fight all these bosses that may have given you a lot of trouble at the start. You can sort of wipe the floor with them, but then you have the Arkham fight, and I always hated that. It might be Mission 19, that, because you fight Arkham and then surely it's straight onto Virgil. Anyway, we're getting too sidetracked here. We've got a boss fight coming up here that, to be fair, could be like something out of DMC1 with the Virgil fights, or Nero Angelo as he's called. I've completely lost my train of thought now. Sure, I was on Metal Gear Solid 3. Yes, I wasn't I? Yeah, the Shagohod boss fight. I see, it's stuff like that. Can they make that a lot better? I think you can. I think you can make that a hell of a lot better. And if they can improve on stuff like that, then we're on to a real winner. I'd also like them to try and improve the EVA escort section a little bit after. I'm tempted to say you extend it because it's only like 2 areas, but the thing with MGS3 is that it keeps on ending and ending and ending. So it might be a good idea to not extend that because you just kind of want the game to be a little bit over. I mean, you don't because it's so amazing, and I always get a bit sad when I get to that because it's the last sneaking bit, and it always reminds me that the game's nearly up. But MGS3, in my honest opinion, is about as close as you're going to get to a perfect video game. So remaking it's a risky one, but I think it's easier to remake than Resident Evil 4. So let's see what they can do over there at Konami. I know Konami isn't very popular at the minute, but you can't argue with Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, and they're actually, they're not changing voice actors or anything like that. So I give them a lot of props. But anyway, I'm going to break off that tangent and go on to the ninja fight. And I think this is when I committed to not using rations, so enjoy this because I'm quite proud of this fight. So the fight is simple enough. You've just got to use melee because it's Grey Fox and he'll recognise and fight like a warrior, all that. Macho, garbage, blah blah blah, warrior stuff. But the thing with this is on normal difficulty, this boss fight's a doozy, but on normal and upwards it's pretty damn tricky. I don't actually think it's that much more difficult from normal onwards. I think the difficulty is a bit too just flat because that free combo kick is got incredible range. Watch it here, 1, 2, 3. You've really got to... Judging it is the hardest thing because if you're too slow, you're not going to get punches like here. So you've got to kind of learn over time how to gauge it. It's better to run to the side for the last one. That way you can sort of catch him out. Like there, I've not given myself too much distance. So it's best to try and go in the centre where he sort of gets stuck on the objects in the room and it kind of gets him caught in a corner and you're more likely to be able to get an attack. But as I say, that kick does quite a bit of damage, so do be careful when you get caught by it. But as I say, I think this boss fight can look a little bit like those fights with Virgil in DMC1 with the whole fists being the main course of action. Be careful of that attack. I felt so stupid getting caught by that because I don't know what you'd call that, the launch attack is got such a great window for opportunity, easy to dodge, and it leaves Grey Fox open for 3 really easy hits. So I was very disappointed to get caught out by that. Extremely frustrating, and it put me on the ropes because any kind of more damage and I was basically going to be dead. It was going to be a tall order to then beat him, but thankfully I do get my mojo in this. I can confirm this is the correct run because I'm not doing it live. Unlike MGS3, as I say, I think we'll definitely live streaming it would be good if my internet can cope and hold on, because we could sort of do the whole game live with my initial reactions, and we could see how difficult it's going to be. As I say, I'm thinking I'm going to crank the difficulty up because I know MGS free, and I mean they're going to change things like guard routine, and I might be getting caught out, but I'd like to test myself, because if it's too difficult and it's only like the virtuous mission or something that I do, I can easily say, you know what, this is really giving me difficulty in the main snake eater part. Let me just reset and just do virtuous mission again on like normal or something, and we can just sort of enjoy the game. I never forget Resident Evil Village. I stuck that game on hardcore or something because the game sort of recommended it to me, because it was like, oh, you've played Resident Evil before, try hardcore, and it completely kicked my ass in the opening village sequence. And I've always done it on normal since, and I really think I should start challenging myself on Resident Evil. It's a game series I've played a lot on, but never any of them on hard, apart from Resident Evil 3, because it's either easy mode or hard, because that game was done in 1999. Oh, use the thermal goggles here, because his hiding tactics are easy. He's only got so many spots, so if you've played this boss fight a lot, you'll kind of know where he's going to go. Other than that, don't worry too much. But yeah, Resident Evil 3 I've done on hard mode, because that was in an era when games didn't really mess about with you. Back in 1999, because it either says play it on hard mode or play on easy baby. Well, it doesn't say easy baby mode, it just says easy mode. And it's like, well, I'm not going to play a game on easy mode. I've played the others on normal, so I'm going to, I'll have to try and go on a hard. So I think Resident Evil 3 is always seems a really hard game, but it's probably because it is on hard mode, whatever they call it, hard mode. This attack from Grey Fox is easy. Just simply run around, wait for him to sort of teleport, dodge the massive punch, kick him. Honestly, this part is easy. If you've done the free kicks, this is a godsend. The punch, though, however, has massive damage, so if I get caught by it, I would be dead here. So it will take like half your life off, so do be careful. But other than that, this is quite simple stuff, so you shouldn't stress too much here. You'll breeze this, honestly, don't worry. And once we've done this boss fight, there's only one more boss fight to go in this video, and you're pretty much doing well on the game. You're getting pretty far now. You just got some really annoying backtracking to do. As I say, he'll start teleporting a little bit more. I think if you do this on like hard or extreme, off memory, he like starts teleporting absolutely loads, which makes it a little bit more tricky, but it's still pretty easy. But there you go, last punch, run away, run away, run away. Do not die to this cheap BS. I do hate this. And don't go in for the punch, just get the Famous, give him a little spray. Just keep your distance, a little spray like that. I used to punch him when I first played this because I thought you had to, but honestly, just use the Famous. Line yourself up with first person, get in close, give him a little spray, boss fight is going to be done. He'll go, once he goes to that position there that he's in currently, that's when you know the fight's done, because the cutscene sort of starts there. So there you go. Grey Fox defeated. Pretty simple stuff. Not too much for you to worry about there. Get your Famous bullets, get your supplies, and go again. Get that health bar raised. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm going to have to try and beat Sniper Wolf without using rations. Is going to be quite the test. I'm probably going to have to move a lot more and be a lot more risky with my tactics on that one. But I think it'll be worth it, a lot of fun. Just nice to try and push myself on Metal Gear Solid 1 without using rations, because I've never done anything like that. I've never tried to do a no alerts playthrough or anything like that. I mean, there are mandatory alerts, but I recently did a no alerts run on Metal Gear Solid 2 on hard without using the tranquilizer gun, and it was so rewarding to do that and finish it. I kind of wish I hadn't put the whole no alerts thing on me, because it meant I had to restart the game a lot more than I would have liked. It'd have been easier if I'd have just said, you know what, let's just not use the trank gun rather than trying to combine the two, especially on some of the more tricky struts, because it just meant every time I got caught I had to reset the game. I had to make sure I was saving a lot more tedium than I probably should have put on myself, but not too much to worry about. Again, with this room here, this corridor, I made a commitment not to, how would you put it, go through all these doors and get stuff, because the body armor is in here, and I don't know if I can get the body armor just yet, but I thought, why wait? Why get it now, or risk trying to get it and using chaff grenades when I know I'm going to come back later with a level 6 card for level 6 doors, and I can just do all of them in one go. I know that there's not anything too key in here other than body armor, and I'm fairly certain I need level 6 card for that. And I'm only up to level 4 at this point, I think. So there's no point me taking the risk. I mean, I was trying to do all sorts to see what I could see inside the doors, but it didn't really work too well. So I just sort of said, leave it, we'll come back when we've got more. You already do a lot of backtracking. You don't want to be adding more tedium every time you come through here, because you'll just be doing it all the time. And it eats into your chaff grenade supplies, which you're going to need a lot more of in the second half of the game. So now I've got a little bit of a lull. We're going to find Meryl as one of the guards, one of the easier things to do when you know how to go about that process. But I think I'll just talk briefly on what's coming up on the channel on Recall Gaming. I think you can expect more Metal Gear Solid for now, 1, 2, and 3. I plan to do all of them on their hardest difficulties before the release of Metal Gear Solid Delta. I'm also wanting to do Siphon Filter 1, 2, and 3. And just very quickly, when you're looking for Meryl, it's quite obvious. Look at the guard who's, got a... Baby got back. Baby got back. Quite easy to tell which one's a woman. So just run up to Meryl, let her spot you, and you can chase her to the woman's bathroom. Which, yeah, that sounds good. But after that, you got a chance to fully go through these rooms and everything. Make sure you don't kill Meryl, because as a kid, I had lots of time to sort of mess around with this game, and I practiced all sorts of. So you can kill Meryl, that ends the game, as you'd expect, and all kinds of cool stuff you can mess around with. But with level 5, you can open most doors in here now freely without any guards bothering you. It's the only time in the game you'll get the opportunity with this room, so make use of it. But in terms of Recall Gaming, MGS 1, 2, and 3 are very much on the radar. Doing them on the hardest difficulty sounds like a lot of fun. Live playthroughs for that one, well, I won't be broadcasting them live like streaming, but the videos will be live, so you'll get live reactions. I mean, MGS 2 on European Extreme. I don't think I've ever done it on European Extreme. I've certainly done it on Extreme a long, long time ago. I've done the tanker on European Extreme. I know that much. I can't think if I've ever done the plant or not. So that could be a real test. Make sure you get the cardboard box, guys. Very important that you get that for later, by the way. But yeah, we'll certainly do those 3 games. MGS3 is a doddle for me, and it gets us ready for Delta as well, the remake. And Siphon Filter 1, 2, and 3 very much on the agenda, because those videos still pulling in a couple views every couple of days. The ranking levels. So very much Siphon Filter on the agenda, because I know that a large part of my audience, my subscribers went up a decent number on the back of that Siphon Filter video. So yeah, very much on the agenda. But with all that said and done, we'll now get into the Psycho Mantis boss fight. Another boss fight, as I say, the pace of this game is relentless at times. Just run around a little bit and that'll get Meryl to activate this cutscene. Now, when Meryl goes for you, as a kid, and I think in this video I do punch her, you do chip away at her health, so if you want a more safe strategy, just double tap square, flip her over. It doesn't take any health away, and you're not going to run the risk of, chipping away from her health and killing her long term. And she can take quite a beating, so just a couple flips will do the job. Just make sure you are moving when you double tap square, because if you stand still on tap square, you will kill her. Firstly, when the boss fight starts, hit L1 and R1, change your controller settings to player 2. This is not new information, but there you go. And then you can hit Psycho Mantis. I mean, this boss fight is a doddle. It can just be a bit time-consuming. I'd like to see a speedrunner do this, obviously without doing any level skips, because I don't think there's a great way to do this fight. I just use things like thermal goggles so I can always see Mantis, using first-person view because you got his vision, basically, so you can kind of see where he's positioning himself, and just firing a weapon and punching and just dodging stuff. No need to get risky in this fight, just take it steady and you can get this one done pretty quick without any real fuss. One thing I never realised is that Psycho Mantis can just pretty much cause grenades to explode, so grenades are totally useless against him. Which makes sense, because he can read your mood and read your moves, and even if he couldn't, he's got telekinesis, and by the time he's seen you throw a grenade, he's going to be able to have done something about it. But as I say, this is a really simple fight. It's really not too much to stress through. I mean, this was the boss fight that made me think we'd never get Metal Gear Solid 1 remastered. Well, not remastered, but ported over, because, how are they going to get around the whole changing controller ports when changing controller ports hasn't been a thing since the PS2, which is a long time ago now. PS3 obviously didn't have it and all that cool stuff. 4 and 5 obviously not as well. So, just making it a menu made it simple enough. I mean, the template was already there if you ever played this game on PS3 through the emulation. That was how you did it on there, but this menu is a hell of a lot more intuitive, thank God for that. And it works pretty well. And, I mean, they managed to get around the pressure-sensitive controls in 2 and 3 with an okay solution, with clicking the L3 stick, which, it's not great, but it's not the worst thing they've ever done, and I'd nearly reset the game. That would have been utter travesty. Yeah, I was probably struggling to navigate menus at that point. So make sure when you flip Meryl to just give Mantis a little punch, because he'll throw his big energy ball at you. I really don't get what the deal with that is. Strange. I mean, for Metal Gear, it's pretty ordinary. That's like Monday morning to Metal Gear, isn't it? But I mean, particularly Metal Gear now. I mean, this game feels so grounded in comparison to what would happen. I mean, MGS3 is very grounded, but at the same time, it does have a guy walking around with Colonel Volgin just firing electricity, and it's never explained. I don't think they did unfortunately explain the Cobra unit with the stupid parasite thing, which really annoyed me in MGS5. Thankfully, it isn't like out. It is never shoved in your face, but it is one of there in the cassette tapes. But I don't think did they ever explain Volgin in them tapes? They may well have done. I've only played from Metal Gear Solid 5 once, and that is nearly 10 years ago. Which, oh my god, I've only just realised that as I've said it, and that really kills me. But anyway, we're coming to the end of this fight as we realise how old we are. And I mean, I remember I first played this game when I was about 7 or 8 years old, so I've been playing this game now for about 20 years. I'm fairly certain I finished it for the first time in 2005. That is like a memory I still hold on to. I'm sure it was 2005 I finished this game, so 20-year anniversary, so some way for me to celebrate it. The extreme playthrough I do with this will be really fun because I'm not very good at this game on the harder difficulties. That without that radar, I struggle. Make sure when you've done the fight, switch your controller back, and you'll be good. And yeah, that's pretty much everything for this part. I might leave it here to just see it out as we head to the caves. We've covered a lot in this second part, a lot more than the first one. And as I said, as I mentioned earlier in the video, yes, I can talk, as a commenter rather usefully pointed out for me. Recall Gaming out, guys. I'll see you for part 3.